Coleman,
Here, if I can be counted.
can't be counted for a quorum, but you're here. Dr. Davis.
Good.
And Dr. Davis. Mr. Ethan Estes.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, sorry. Dr. Henderson. Ms. Lawson. Here. Ms. Calvert. I think she joined us virtually too.
Yes.
Ms. Merritt. And Mr. Powell.
Sure.
You have four, which does not represent a quorum, so we need to go into an executive session for the agenda. Yes,
All right,
so you have to appoint everybody that's in attendance today to the executive committee temporarily.
I'll repeat that.
Are you okay with doing that?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. We're done.
Introductions and announcements.
We have one announcement. We wanted to congratulate Destiny Graves. Destiny is the daughter of Hollis Baker Graves, who's our procurement manager and works in fiscal. She is extremely accomplished, and we wanted you all to know that if we wanted to feature her, Destiny will be a future guest of the advisory board. When she is working with members of our outreach and Europe and LMOS units on the National Organization of Minority Architect Students, and as to how we can partner to be able to bring exposure to students in secondary about those career choices. So as that project moves further along, Destiny has agreed to join us in person, but we wanted to congratulate her and her family on these tremendous accomplishments.
Approval of the minutes from the last meeting that was held on September 8th, 2022.
I motion.
I'm second.
Motion first by Ms. Bailey and seconded by Ms. Lawson. Moving on, public comment.
Andrew, do we have any public comment?
No comment.
All right, let's go to program updates. It's been.
Good morning. I am Terry Underwood. Not sure if I still have that on there, but anyway, I'm the director of the START program, START programs. You will see on the slide the three programs as well as the number of accounts and the total amount of deposits for month ending September. Currently, the START K-12 transfers have been very popular. We've we've had 52 transfers from our START saving accounts over to the START K-12. And that resulted in 47 new START K-12 accounts. And that's for when the offering came in August, and that is August through October. Also, recently, we've had some requests during the market volatility to add additional investment fund offerings to minimize losses. It came in for able, however, the investment officers and state treasury is looking at adding new funds to all three programs to aid the account owners with the losses that they have been incurring. So they are working on that, and we are waiting to hear the final of what the new offerings will be. Right now, all three programs, we're gearing up for the end of the year deposits. Of course, START and now this year, START K-12 will have the tax deduction. So we are going into our busiest time of the year, so we're getting ready for that. That's what I have today. Did y'all have any questions?
Thank you, Ms. Finley. Next, college access, success, and communications, Ms. Holmes, Ms. Capel.
And if y'all don't mind, when we do your updates, and come to this table and trip over the board, please. Okay, check that over there. Okay, whatever. Okay, you can hear me. Andrew, y'all can hear us in the room, correct?
I can hear you.
Ms.
Yes,
Coleman and Ms. Albert, can y'all hear us in the room?
yes.
Thank you.
Okay, good morning. This is Ebony Holmes with Community College Access Success in Communications. We have the name of my own division. And so here are some updates from our division for October. Of course, you know that we give updates on virtual office hours that we've done since COVID started. And so this is just an overview of all of the virtual office hours we've conducted to date. You'll see that MJ Foster is kind of starting to creep up there. This is one that we started more recently to serve those students for that program that recently started. And even though we are transitioning to in-person events, we are still doing a number of virtual events. It just kind of depends on what works best for those schools and those students. But October, November, of course, always heavy outreach months for us. Next. And of course, the next 3 slides show all of the professional development that we've done for the month of October. You'll notice that a lot of that professional development is focused on student loan repayment, student loan forgiveness, and then also lots of webinars on FAFSA and updates that are going to be coming with the 2023-24 FAFSA. More professional development, and I think there's one more professional development slide. Yes. And so what we've also done is we continue to look at outreach, is that we have now added MJ Foster Promise to the list of events or outreach events that we are offering to those individuals that are interested. So that is now on our events page, so that individuals or institutions that want us to come out to talk about MJ Foster now have that option available. So a little bit more about some of the outreach that we have done. Cass, along with Rhonda Brittavo, who usually leads the effort for the professional school council webinars. This is something that we do every year, and it is designed to keep our counselors informed on not only TOPS, but also LOSFA, other LOSFA programs and initiatives. So it's usually a 2-day event. And then also we did, in conjunction with scholarship and grants, the Go Teach webinar. And so, of course, this is also a newer program, but this is something that we did, I think, October 20th, to provide that information for financial aid administrators and other the individuals that are going to be over some of those teaching certification programs. That was for them to give them more information on that program. And then finally for me, we were at NACAC this year, and so that is the National College Fair, very large event. I believe they had a college from England that was there this year. So NACAC is always a lot of fun. Rhonda was there as well. She stepped off, I think, not. But always a lot of fun. Those are some of our newer team members that had the opportunity to experience NACAC. We are typically located at the bottom in the counselor resource center, so that individuals can come ask questions. And then we also had a room upstairs where we were doing presentations. So we get the opportunity to kind of interact with lots of students and parents and counselors throughout the day at the National College Fair. And so I will now turn it over to Mr. Cordell.
Our CAS design team recently teamed up with LOSFA, and we have created a template to send to high schools with our new LOSFA branding for to help LOSFA events. This cuts down on the design load on our graphics teams. It also helps to make sure that we are protecting the LOSFA brand with our partners as they are promoting LOSFA events. We also partnered with LBOB for their Fall Counselors Institute, where we talked about updates from the agency, and then of course information about our newest program, Go Teach, and our transition student network through student engagement. We also teamed up with the FOSS, and we had a district-wide FAFSA night through the STEP groups, their school system, which there is an article for that as well. That you should have in your packet. So if you're interested in reading the article, that's pictured there, it's included. And then we also developed, with the help of our new communication strategist who's here with us in the room, a new virtual card that we're starting to use for our team through Blink. And so that allows us, even if individuals don't have that app, they can share digitally, virtually, a business card with their contact information and upload it to their contacts on their phone. So we've tested it out and we'll be rolling it out agency-wide here shortly. Next slide. So for our social media update, a lot of these are some of the most popular posts that we've had, focusing on FAFSA completion, SAT, ACT information. We do a monthly scholarship posting for students, parents, counselors, et cetera. And then also sharing information about the student financial aid, the federal student aid website for FAFSA completion, because we anticipated a lot of traffic there. These posts proved to be the most popular throughout the month, with a combined view of 340,000, over 340,000, and then 1,500 shares on just these posts. We also are seeing increased traffic with the information that we're sharing, and are continuing to strategize the best way to get this information out that's imperative for students, families, consumers, that they'll need in order to access resources for LOSFA or vital information from other agencies or the file cabinet. And then, of course, we also promoted the Louisiana College Application Access Fund. We are also making it very clear that LOSFA is offering resources, services, and support beyond the month of October in order to assist students with applying to college. And we have also been able to distribute among the packet of information and resources our new college application guide, which hopefully serves as a very useful resource for our students as they try to navigate the application process. And it is also linked to every application and admissions page to every college in the state as well, to make it a one-stop shop document resource for students to be able to apply to college. Thank you. Thank you.
Now, student engagement.
And good morning to our LOSFA Advisory Board supervisor in person and joining us virtually. I wanted to make a point out to present. The last 2 months, I think Dr. Craig had been with my staff as we were doing other engagement activities. This first slide, as we generally do, provide you with an overview of our network group activities for the month. This is October. We were in preparation for doing multiple other presentations for both in person and with outreach to other community-based organizations. Can you go back, please? And so our slides are showing that this. I just want to highlight that as we have launched our transition group, we're in our second month. We're still growing it. We have had 12, that number 12 registered. We are working with our LaFosse counterparts and team members to really continue to promote that, along with our communication strategies to explore avenues to get this new group out. The post-secondary schools that we serve, we actually have at least 2 additional schools that we want to highlight and reference that was not on there. Of course, you see LSU, NSU, SLCC, and Southern University, which have been our regulars. But we were so excited to see the growth and impetus of the attendance from other LCTCS schools. Fletcher, North Shore, and Nunez have had some students that are becoming very actively involved. And we attribute that to our departmental informational meetings that we've been conducting with those various deans and department chairs. So we saw a huge uptick in our 2-year institutions in their attendance in our network groups. Again, this month we were focusing and assisting with getting that awareness about FAFSA removal and completion out, so all of the groups receive the same messaging on their respective nights. Doing this slide here, it represents, you see the invitation from Northwestern State University's engineering program. They held an annual symposium where they invite all of the schools that are within the Natchez Parish School District, 10th graders on up to seniors, where they expose them to career opportunities within engineering. So they bring on community partners, employers to do some displays, but they also give cutting edge demonstrations on some of the research and projects that the department has going on. So this particular slide, it captures Dr. Craig and I both joining myself in person in Natchitoches on NSU's campus, as well as he taking part virtually, as he is our facilitator for the engineering student network group. Wanted to engage them and acknowledge that university in their support of encouraging their students to participate. And so we pulled off stuff to make sure that we were there. As you can see, we had over 76 members, individuals present. There's a hyperlink below on that slide if you click, where NSU also features a story where our student network group is mentioned, as well as LOSFA in their role as far as participating. This next slide illustrates for us, as we continue to grow and develop student engagement division, the impact that we can have with our community groups, our community grassroots organizations that do provide programming. If you recall, earlier this year, we reported on several technical assistance and support meetings that we held with a group in Lafayette. In fact, it's the RevFit gym, where they wanted to create a college-going access culture with their students. And so they reached out to us, and over a series of events, we partnered with them. Well, this Gordier initiative, we're excited, is our second endeavor of the same request. We're looking at and have begun the partnership, replicating what we've done with the RevFit model. On last Tuesday, Dr. Craig and I presented to students that the Gordier initiative, which has received a lot of publicity in the Baton Rouge area. They're serving students that are in limited resource communities, underserved, primarily Hispanic origin and descent, but also our first generation students. And so we're excited as we're growing that and looking forward to continue reporting on the outcome of this partnership. During the August advisory board meeting, we of course gave a memorial, made reference to the passing of LOSFA's former team member, Chanel LeBeau. And it was during that time that the staff of LOSFA, as we always do with regards to benevolence, received funds to encourage and express our condolences with our loss of our co-worker here. And so those funds that were remaining were considered and given over to the accounting and finance student network group to establish the Chanel LeBeau Memorial Book Scholarship. So we formulated some guidelines to guide the dispersal of that. It's a one-time offering. And so during the November 21st, student network group of our accounting and finance majors, we will announce that opportunity. This is something that we're hoping that through other initiatives that we can incentivize, encourage our students. And so in memory of Chanel, who worked in LOSFA's accounting division, we are going to award that one scholarship to one of our accounting finance student network group members. And so that went out through various communications, newsletter, and again, announcing it in our August student network group meetings, and specifically sending direct text messages to those students to make them aware of it. As you can see, the guidelines and the eligibility requirements have been provided there for your review as well. I think that concludes our updates from student engagement. What I'd also like to highlight is, as we work towards further events, November, just in our day 3 of it, whereas the engineering symposium was in the month of October, featuring the manufacturing industry. November has been recognized nationally as the apprenticeship awareness month. So Dr. Craig, the Student Engagement Division, is partnering with LOSFA, Mr. Nita Brown. They are coordinating and have scheduled on our calendar. I think it's November the 16th, of Wednesday. We're doing our second annual apprenticeship expo, of course, with the MJ Foster's Promise program on the rising, and having had some type of apprenticeship as part of their ongoing eligibility requirement. We're not only extending this event to our secondary students, but post-secondary students as well. So we're looking forward in our December meeting to give you an outcome report of that continuing in this way. Thank you.
Dr. Cobb. Field Outreach Services.
Good morning. So, first off, before I get started, I wanted to give a big shout out to Ms. Barry Bill because she has been working on the ground with our staff, you know, just side by side, in and out of school, doing FAFSA completion, you know, work. And so it's, you know, definitely appreciated. The second shout out I want to give is to Ms. Charmaine Calvert. She came into our September staff meeting, and she actually provided a lot of information on Southern system financial aid to our staff members. And she even had a chance to participate in PowerPoint karaoke. And we're still laughing about that, but definitely give a shout out to them. Now, as we talk about, you know, this live virtual career expo month, this was outstanding for our students. I was able to attend several of these. Specifically, the one that you see, the professional etiquette at a career fair, that was very heavily participated by schools. And what I love so much about this is with our partners at Delta and at Louisiana Tech, Delta, Julie Salter at Delta actually did a great job bringing in other career services representatives to talk to students about everything from how to present themselves, you know, physically in terms of what dress, what shoes, but not just for going to a career fair, but also on job interviews and graduation. You know, what they should wear, what they should do, and those types of things. So very practical knowledge for students, and the students were really engaged with that. Other thing, DreamWorks, you know, they're always really excited about the internship opportunities there. Another one that was really good, I was able to attend, all of them were excellent, but just wanted to highlight the virtual manufacturing career expo. So Jason Marine Machine Works, actually their owner actually spoke to the students, and she is a female engineer. So definitely making sure that students know, hey, you can do this too. And she actually talked about her pathway at Louisiana Tech. So not only she's a female, but she's going to a local school, and this is how she actually created the company. And she also had someone there to talk about going from being a helper to being a foreman. He was on there talking to students. That Spray did an excellent job, you know, talking about internships, which was really good. And Pulp Mill. So Pulp Mill was another one that actually spoke to students and talked about, hey, you know, don't go work at Target, come work for us, and, you know, make money working for us at internships. So nevertheless, broadening students' perspectives in terms of jobs that are available to them now, internships, opportunities, and what are the post-secondary pathways to get them there. On the right side of the screen, you see Scotlandville Pre-Engineering. So local judges went into the classroom, middle school students are actually getting talked to about law, civil engagement, you know, so young, and understanding the pathway that these judges took to be where they are. So great, you know, education and mentoring opportunity for students. On the bottom side, you see that we had our professional development, definitely focusing in on rigorous coursework, preparing students to make that transition, and had a national career that came into our schools. Next slide. Every year, we, in our Europe grant, we do Europe Week. This is just a very small fraction of what some of our schools did during Europe Week. The activities every day, our advocacy specialist, Tiffany Thomas, does a really great job of theming out the week and the day. So this is, those are the themes. And that's our governor's proclamation for the week. So the schools did an outstanding job. Just really proud of them with that. With our Connected Success partners, we are still working on mindfulness, ACT prep, getting students, helping them to, get those scores up. So SLU, Southeastern and Northwest are doing a really great job of partnering with these sessions, taking the post-secondary institution to the schools. It's been well received. As you can see, Joshua here talks about time management and staying focused with the session, and Trinity talks about, she's not worried as much about time. She feels like she's more prepared. Next slide. Okay, so part of our grant, and a part of the work we do too, it doesn't matter if they're in high school or they're, in college, we're making sure that they get the support they need. So in our partnership with Louisiana Tech, they had rolled out Bites Day, so making sure that those first-year freshmen understand, hey, you're part of this institution, but hey, come and meet people that were in your field or in your program of study. So that was a networking for our Europe students and some of our BOS students as well, to actually participate with that. So to know that they have that support on the post-secondary campus. And on the right side of the screen, Converse High School. So this is Caitlin Bennett. We are super proud of her. She was actually voted by her peers as one of 4 cabinet members at the national level to actually represent Educators Rising. That's very important because of the teacher shortage. So she's leading the way for these programs in Louisiana and across the nation. Next slide, please. Okay, so this looks like our pictures on the right side didn't come out, but on the left side for the request analytics, you can see now. Okay, great, very good. That's the important part you have. So on the left side of the screen, as Ebony mentioned earlier about all of the events that we actually have here that are requested by our office, our events coordinator, Brianna Paul, made a wonderful suggestion, to kind of like streamline our processes. This was in June to actually, take our event request form to this process. It's called a job form, which works well for us. And this is kind of like just to give you a little of the back office behind the events that are coming into our office that are requested. So we've had just since the June, we put this up. This goes to show you that on a busy day, we can get as many as 31 events requested of our office. So definitely really busy, and it goes back to the reason why I gave that shout out to Bear Reed, because it definitely takes, all of us coming together to get this done, right? Okay, at the bottom, last week I was fortunate to work with NCAN, the National College Attainment Network, to present information on how we were able to implement FAFSA policy in the state of Louisiana to Ohio. So that was well received last week with Laura Lee Keller of NCAN. And on the right side, so October was National Principals Month, and these are 2 of our principals from 2 funding sources. So Jared Rivers or Mr. Rivers, he's from Pleasant Hill High School, which is a Europe school, and that's what he has to say. We've done a lot of work, done a lot of support over the past years for his school. And on the right side, Dr. Matthews is from a state-funded school, and this school is really special to us because these students have told us before, thank you for not forgetting about us. So nevertheless, definitely a shout out to all our principals. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Scholarships and grants, Ms. Paul.
Thank you. Good morning, Scholarship and Grant Division. Next slide. Our Louisiana Gold Grant, which is our largest grant program, which has an allocation of $55 million. I have some updated numbers from what's actually on the slide. We bill Gold Grant every Thursday, so we get a report on Friday, and usually by the next Tuesday, we have the money in our account to pay the schools. So as of last week's billing, we had billed for $14,619,298. We will run Gold Grant tonight will account for another $7,364,267. And that will be a total of $21,983,565. So that's right at $22 million, which is close to half of what the allocation should be for the fall. We have 1 or 2 schools that have not billed. We're working with those schools to secure their billing for the fall semester so that we can at least get to the halfway point of our $55 million program for the fall and then the spring semester. And it's a little bit off because Louisiana Tech, for instance, they bill 3 times a year because they're on a quarter system. So we'll get another billing in early, or really before Christmas from Louisiana Tech, because their fall quarter starts after Thanksgiving. Our John R. Justice Student Loan Program for prosecutors and public defenders. We have 8 applications from public defenders, and we're still working on the documentation to make sure that everything is complete before we send those awards out. On the prosecutor side, we have 15 applicants. And then we will be first one the public defender award as of this date, and we should be having the rest of them done by the end of November. Next slide. The MJ Foster promise update. As of mid-October, we had 5,505 applicants. Of those, 3,833 were eligible. 2,786 were funded, and 1,047 were waitlisted. So we are receiving billing requests for the MJ Foster program. On the Go Youth Challenge side, we've only had 4 applicants that were awarded for the fall semester for $6,489. Now, the other programs, we're processing payments as they come through. Are there any questions about the 4 programs I reported on? That's it. Thank you.
House update, Dr. Boucher,
Yeah.
Ms. Lively, and Mr. Young.
Yeah, we're gonna tag team. We wanted to give each of you an update on where we were on the funding projections for TOPS, because if you're going to see in our budget request at this point, the Board of Regents is requesting $7 million more this year for TOPS, but we are also looking at the phenomenon that we're seeing in the billings that are coming in. So know that as those billings come in and as we establish trends, we will let legislative staff know and the Board of Regents about what those are. Currently, when you are looking at this comparison, you are seeing that we are down at this point, pretty much almost across the board down. Besides proprietary and Southern's billings to date comparisons. If you go to the next slide, you'll see that we're looking on the post-secondary side. Now when we come to the secondary side, because those numbers of the TOPS are made up of 2 things, we're also down this year on that number of students from this past year, that class of 2022. You can see that the graduates that were processed were down. As well as the number of eligible students were slightly down. So we've got a 1.78% decrease in the number of eligible students. And when you come across and we're looking at the decrease or increase in the acceptance rates, we're also seeing decreases here. Again, that's that same phenomenon that we're seeing with respect to the Bella survey. It's the same COVID loss that we are seeing. And when you look at the ACT report, you are seeing that we have lower scores, that score. So you see, it's very difficult to be able to say, you know, why is it down and your number eligible, and you see that you got losses from COVID where ACT scores are down. We did have a question from the Board of Regents at their meeting in October. That was, you know, do we see the ACT and the GPA as being something that is viable for TOPS eligibility? Well, the way that I would answer that is if you look at the TOPS 1202 report, the TOPS 1202 report shows you that students that met the criteria for TOPS, which is based on ACT and GPA, significantly outperform students that didn't. So I believe if you want validation of those things with respect to performance in post-secondary, that's your validation that you need to look at. Because they perform students that are in-state and out-of-state, and they significantly overperform students that would have been eligible in-state Louisiana residents that did not meet these criteria. However, just to let you know, the Board of Regents is going to be taking a look at that, and that is up to them to make any recommendations to the legislature for any changes they want to see. Mr. Hunt and Ms. Robert, I'll turn it over to you to finish up with the physical, and then Robert to talk about the exception, which is that's the third part.
Yeah, I just want to point out, even LSU Baton Rouge, which was largely unscathed in last year's decrease, is showing a 4% decrease this year. The only UL system school that is showing an increase is Southeastern, and it's affecting some schools even more than others. UNO and McNeese are both showing decreases of 20% from last year. That's in total buildings. It's not in new students. And ULL and Louisiana Tech, two of our largest universities, so it's affecting some schools more than others, but almost everybody's.
So with respect to the exception, as you can see by this chart, if you look at the 2022 numbers, everyone has seen an increase over what we have received in prior months or prior years for the same month. We are almost at last year's total as of mid-October of this year. And these are students who enrolled in school but might have withdrawn after class day after the rewards were made. But a lot of these students did not enroll at all, which means that they weren't billable, right? But we have seen an increased spike in students with mental health issues for which they are requesting exceptions. And if you had a chance to look at the full packet, you will see we are bringing some rulemaking today to put that as an objective circumstance so that we can better track it as to how many we are getting. But does anybody have any specific questions they would like me to answer about these exceptions?
Go Todd.
I think. Exactly.
So, sorry. Thank you, Ms. Lavo. Executive Director.
Yes, we promised you last time that we would bring you the budget presentation that we did for the Board of Regents. So the budget presentation is fairly lengthy. So we put the entire presentation at the end of the packet. So we wanted to pull out a few slides to show you the major changes that we anticipate in LOSFA program's budget. Important thing to see here is that each year we talk to policymakers about the fact that the majority of LOSFA's budget, if you look at column 1, 89.2% goes to program awards. That means that that's not money available to pay staff to be able to process awards. That's not money available for staff to be able to outreach or intensive advising. That is money available to provide to students, and that is what we do. The FEL program, as you see, 7.5%, that is property of the United States Department of Education. Again, first flag on major change that is ending in this fiscal year 22-23. That funding will not be available to us in 23-24. In fact, we expect to transition out of that program by the end of this calendar year. Our Gear Up program is 1.2% of our budget. That is also in its final funding year. We let you know about that the last time. So that 3.5 million will also not be available to us in 2023-24. So the big contrast here is program operations. This is where you pay for people that do the job that you've seen everybody give you the updates on, and where you pay the bills to be able to operate an entity the size of LOSFA. Note that we keep those expenses very low at 2.1%. So again, what we want to emphasize is the workhorse in that 2.1% does to be able to operate all of those programs. And I think you'll see that on the next slide. Important takeaways here. Look at column 1. Over time, from 2012, 2013 to 2022, 23, the programs we've administered have increased by 175%. So if you just kind of look at that, where we were, who LOSFA was, and who LOSFA is now, right? And our outreach audiences, look at column 3 on the far right. So our programs we administered increased by 175%, but the audiences we're expected to serve increased by 500%. LOSFA historically has been known as ask somebody where do you work, and you say LOSFA, and they say who is that, and you say one word, TOPS. Right? If you look over there to the left, you see, oh, but that ship sailed. Way more than that. Now, when that ship sails, right, and you start to add new programs with very specialized audiences that you're trying to serve, then the number and amount and scope of individuals that you have to prepare and provide outreach for also increases. But look at that middle column. That middle column says, well, you have an 8.4% increase in your budget. Well, yeah, but remember, almost 90% of that is program awards. So if you drop right down below that, you look at personnel. 175% increase in programs, 500% in increases in audiences. Look at that, from 21% to 23.7% in who we have to do that work. So again, huge kudos to everybody that comes up here and the folks that they represent for doing this great work and partnering with it. So for that reason, here's our budget request. Next slide. All right, so what we do is to say the status of what are the big changes? Well, we know that the federal is going away, right? But that's a federal program. So that is self-contained in that you're either, if you're not paying the claims, and you're not using the money to be able to do that, that refers back to the federal government. So our outreach budget there for ERA, you see that $5.45 million. That's 3.5 for the federal government and 1.95 for a match. Right, that's not going to be there in the next fiscal year. So we've got a $3.5 million hole. We anticipate that the 1.9 in-state match will remain with us. We have not heard anything. You know, I'm going to do that first. We're pretty sure, as opposed to certain. We're pretty sure that they're not going to take that. Know that they could. So if you don't need the program anymore, then you don't need the state match, and now you don't have that money for outreach. So we anticipate exhausting the 3.5 in federal funds. Where does that leave us? The 1.9 in state match is not sufficient to fund the existing LFOS bureau staff. That staff cost us approximately $2.4 million. You have 1.9. So even if you were to take all of your 1.9 and do staff, then what else can they do? They can't travel, they can't do professional development, and you don't really have any money to support them. So we've got to have a plan. So the plan post-ERA is to say, let's bank on what we know we're going to have, which, go back one more, that bottom part. You're banking on the pretty sure keeping the 1.95. So we are at this particular point in time backing into how many positions does that allow us to keep for our outreach, right? That is what we're doing. And then what would those positions be doing? Well, the research that we have from Bella, the research that's available on the national front tells us these are the most effective practices, because when you have this much of a reduction, you have to focus on what works and not what is nice to do, right? So we're focusing on this is what moved the needle. So we're going to put that together with the best practices from the survey data and balance examination data. with how many positions can we fund with the 1.9 that we're pretty sure we're going to be allowed to keep. And at that time, we will know which positions do we have, and we will open up competition for those positions.
So I think everybody will have to reapply.
Yes,
You're saying.
yes.
And
Because you could have.
so how many people we have now?
Dr. Cobb, you have to answer that about 30.
21.
But again, 2.4, 1.9. Right.
That's fine.
Okay,
I'm just,
Yes.
just speak a little lane.
yes, that's fine. All right, so what are we going to do? When we look at the existing amounts that we're not pretty sure we're gonna keep, we're certain what we have to look at the existing outreach staff that we do have already that are not tied to the grant. That is the student engagement network budget and the CASC network budget. All of those individuals in those units, albeit smaller, also do outreach. What did Bella and the surveys tell us were the big three? The big three that were most important to students, most important to parents, and the big three that move needles. The comprehensive post-secondary advising and mentoring, the career exploration that's connected to post-secondary pathways. In fact, students wanted to be advised using that first method of what their alternative pathways are. Don't just tell me I'm going to a 4-year. Tell me there's different ways for me to get to point A to point B. And no, you can't just tell me about which institution you think I need to attend or how many years. You have to provide holistic support services, and you have to anticipate the barriers that students are experiencing to completion, because all of those things are affecting those numbers that you're seeing on enrollment and affecting numbers when you see a student not accepting merit-based aid. So how will we plan to deliver those services? The team members that are hired to do this intensive work will be hired to do intensive mentoring, provide post-secondary pathways, and connect students to holistic support services using our 5-point match framework, which basically means when you're working with students to design those paths, you need to be talking about what works with that student's natural strengths, which are alternative paths, which paths are cost of choice realistic for that student based upon the financial aid they're going to qualify for to mitigate loan debt, which one fits that student's social and emotional need. In other words, where are they going to feel as though they fit when they get there, and which institutions are doing the best job of retaining individuals that are majoring here. Again, where are you going to get the best bang for your buck? A lot of intensive work. That is what we're going to be focusing on. So next slide. So here's our ask. We are pretty sure we're keeping the 1.9. We know we're pretty certain that we're keeping the student engagement budget and the CASC budget, right? Because that's not associated with anything that is going away. So what we asked for, and so you see that total there. So the 1.274, that's our college access, that's student engagement, plus the 1.9 that we're pretty sure we're going to keep. So that brings you to right under 3.5 with all three of those pots of money. So what we asked the Board of Regents for to put in their budget request, and we are aware that it is there. That doesn't mean we're going to get it, because it has to have legislative approval. We asked for $7 million, and yes, I did get a phone call to say, "Are you seriously asking for $7 million?" And I said, yes, I'm seriously asking for $7 million. And no, it is a 3.5 to backfill ERA and 3.5 as a wish list. No, that bottom 3.5 is not a wish list, because you go back to that slide that said 175% increase in the programs we're operating, 500% increase in the audiences. Secondary is one audience that you're asking me to serve. I got a whole bunch more people that you're asking me to provide intensive outreach to. So no, I can't take, even if they only give me 3.5, I can't take that 3.5 and focus it on secondary, because then I'm ignoring all of those other audiences I've been tasked to serve. So we segmented and said, if you give me the entire salary, then we will focus on those big three for K-12 population statewide, and we'll focus on those big three for the of post-secondary audiences, which include traditional, non-traditional adult incarcerated, and I know you could put them in there, but you can take adults and break them out into at least 9 categories, subcategories. So that is our ask. So Mr. Hunt is basically working on 3 budgets right now. How many positions could be funded with intensive outreach with the 1.9 that we have? Given that you got to do travel and professional development and give a platform to track what you're doing, if you're doing intensive advising, right? If we got 3.5 more, how many positions would that add? If you got 7 more, how many positions would that add? And the strategy is, how can we take the money that we have and spread that well to serve a statewide audiences as opposed to specific school districts, because we know that we have individuals across the state that need these services, that need them desperately. That is where we are. We'll keep you abreast and updated on our progress with this. We will not know about the 7 million until June.
We'll have a good idea. And around February.
But the scene doesn't start until June, because that's when the governor signs the budget. So again, right now, plans are to proceed with the pretty sure of the 1.9 in addition to the 1.274, and see how we can stretch that and provide intensive services, advising, mentoring, career secondary pathways, right, to as many individuals as we possibly can. That's our goal. Okay, question?
Thank you. All right, moving on to new business. The first one, that the advisory board consider the adoption of meeting dates for the period January through June 2023. They're proposing Thursday, January 19th, 2023, Thursday, March 2nd, 2023, Thursday, April 6th, 2023, Tuesday, May 9th, 2023, Thursday, June 22nd, 2023. Motion to approve the proposed dates for 2023.
I motion.
Motion by Ms. Bailey, second by Mr. Estes. All right, so moving on to number 2, that the advisory board consider rulemaking to amend section 2103 of the scholarship and grant program rules to add a mental health subtype to the temporary disability exemptions available to students when they cannot meet certain TOPS continuation requirements. Ms. Lively, would you like to expound on this?
So this is that rulemaking that I told you about when I was going over the increase in exemptions. As I said, we are getting a lot more mental health disabilities, and we don't have a way to track that other than being the one person processes all exceptions counter manually. So we want to implement this so that we can put that subcategory into the award system so that we can track it better and have more accurate records on it. And that's all it should be.
Anyone have a question?
I make a motion.
You want to make a motion to approve? Ms. Lawson,
Ms. Bailey.
second by Ms. Bailey. All right, moving on to number 3, that the advisory board consider the attached request for exceptions to the TOPS regulatory provisions that require students to remain continuously enrolled and to earn the annual credit hours required during the academic year.
So these are those normal exceptions that y'all see every month. If you have specific questions about any of them listed here, I'll be happy to answer.
Everyone get a chance to review those? Anyone have any questions? Motion to approve?
Ms. Bailey,
Ms. Bailey,
motion.
seconded? Second. Mr. Estes. Going through. All right. Moving on to number 4. That the advisory board consider attached requests for exceptions to the top statutory provisions that require a student to begin a home study program no later than the conclusion of the 10th grade.
So as y'all may remember, prior to this year, we were not allowed to provide exceptions based on a late entering of home study. But as you've seen, we have many of these coming through. I don't think there's been a month since this law passed that we have not had at least one home study request. But the students presented facts that indicate it was well beyond their control. So we had brought this to consideration.
Everyone's had a chance to review this. Motion to approve. Bailey, approved. Seconded by
Second.
Mr. Estes. All right. Last one, number 5, that the advisory board consider the attached request for exceptions to the topsoil regulatory provision that require a student to file the FAFSA no later than 120 days after July 1st, following the 1-year anniversary of their graduation from high school. Slide.
This one is a bit different, and as you see, we are recommending denial of this request, and we are doing that simply because we have to. The administrative rules set forth by the Board of Regents require that a student file the FAFSA the July 1st following the 1-year anniversary of graduation from high school. We cannot recommend to you that you do anything other than what the rules provide. However, what I can tell you is that when circumstances present themselves where the student provides documentation that they weren't able to do so, we bring it to you for your consideration. You have the ability to say, we don't like this recommendation, we think that the student should be considered late. Of course, all 3 of these different exception types that we've talked about today will go before the Board of Regents, and they will make a final decision based upon what you approve or disapprove.
This is a continuous.
This is a new student.
Okay.
That hasn't filled the FAFSA out in a year and
120 days or.
after that,
I understand. Right,
For you guys.
or just in general.
just in general, he did not file it until,
That was the question.
right.
So they did not file for as their graduation requirement, they did a waiver.
When he
I
graduated.
do not know.
Okay.
I
Did he graduate
have
below?
information as to what he did. He's a 2018 graduate, which means his FAFSA.
He would have had to do it
July 1/19. We received his FAFSA on June 26, 2020. But as you see from his documentation, he was sent on a mission through his church out of the country. So he did not file his FAFSA until he returned from there because he did not expect to be going to school during that period. He did not file a FAFSA at the time. So
He didn't file it for graduation purposes. It sounds like he did a waiver. It sounds like, or he did something other than.
I thought it was a private school graduate, I could be mistaken.
Oh, okay.
but I thought-
Okay, so he did, that was not a requirement. Okay.
yeah,
I
I
don't
don't recall if it was.
Yeah.
That does make a difference.
It started in 2017 is when
Right,
the
that's
requirement started, so.
Right.
So if that was a private school, then yes, it is not, that requirement does not, is not. Okay. But in order for him to receive his stuff, he still needed to fill it out by July 1st. Of his anniversary
Yes,
of graduation. Okay, and he did not.
and that's why this is.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I would deny it too, because you had enough time even prior to you leaving. You knew what the deadline regardless if you were gonna use it or not, still.
Well, here's another thing I would point out.
Okay.
Students who initially attend an out-of-state college, their deadline is later, right? Their deadline is the July 1 following the year they return to Louisiana. Student initially intended to go to an out-of-state school, and he did go first to an out-of-state school in the spring semester of 2020 after he returned from his mission. That's another complicating factor for this one, but he still did not meet his deadline. So that's another issue that was.
Can I ask a question about when if they would have filled out a FAFSA, but like not renewed it, is that the situation, or like just never filled one out until 2021?
We did not receive a FAFSA by the July 1, 2019. That's, I don't know if he completed it and it was sent somewhere else and for some reason we didn't receive it. I do not. But Alice can correct me if I'm wrong, but we're supposed to receive them for all students. With the Louisiana.
Right.
So,
Yeah, regardless of whatever schools they have listed on.
yes,
But to clarify, our recommendation of denial should not be considered as our opinion as to whether we would approve it. We don't have the authority to recommend approval. We have the authority to say our rules that we operate in internally say we have to deny it. We bring it to you, you have the authority to override that and approve it. And then the Board of Regents, generally speaking, acts upon your recommendations. So I just want to make sure.
It seems like he followed the rule, but he just happens to be back in the state, right? So from the country. So I don't see where he broke the rule, given that if he would have stayed out of the country or went to school somewhere else, it would be a, but he wouldn't have possible, but it would be okay, like it would. It's only because he's coming back here to go to school here that now he technically did meet the rule for going to school here, right? I mean, tops.
that is correct.
So it's kind of like he did break the rule, but I mean, he just happened to come back home. So.
And I would point out that his mission was ended early because of COVID, because it was scheduled to come in 2020, in late 2020, and then early because of lockdown.
So we still had a window to do what we needed to do.
And which he filed it within a month and a half over to the states.
All right, motion to approve or deny. One more question.
Just, and Robbie can clarify. Because we have, because what they said, we have to do for denial. So your motion would be to override our denial if you want the motion to move this forward to Board of Regents for approval. So the motion would be to, right? Motion would be to.
Rhonda is correct.
Not, the motion would be to override the denial and approve the student FAFSA exemption.
So the motion to override the denial and approve the exception.
Me personally, I think we're gonna open up a door for more of this. And to me, you still, before you decide it, we tell students all the time, do it anyway. Regardless if you go today, you go tomorrow, you go 6 months from now, we still get you to try to do it. Regardless if you're coming here or not, we still try to get you to do it. And you didn't do it before. You didn't do it before you left. And you only did it because your stuff got canceled. And you're coming back. And so if we tell everybody else no, I mean, we should tell them no too.
Yeah, we have approved some.
For this
Not
situation,
this specific situation, but we have approved like FAFSAs.
they can, okay.
Or you have like FAFSAs, and the Board of Regents has approved. Now, keep in mind, this does not happen often. I will tell you, when I do these proposals, I go back to ones that were previously done and, you know, why create a deal and just recreate that document. The last one we did was in 2018. So it's not that often that we have like this.
I mean, for the same purpose, because we have students all the time that we say, we don't know what they're gonna do after high school. You don't know this. You know, so fill this out. That's why I was asking, if they done it before and it just was like they had not renewed it, that's a different situation altogether because they would have done it at least one time. That was my question for that. Like, if they've never done it, I mean, there are enough messages going across, like, I mean, social media, anywhere, like, fill out your FAFSA. And I know that the law became, it was in 2017. So when I see the 2018 graduate, that was that first year. And even if they were in a private school, the messages were going out at that time. A really hard time with this.
Yeah.
I understand where you're coming from. We have approved it before. I mean, if we've approved them before, it's a very tough call. When I know every day we are pushing, this side of the table is pushing this message to students. I mean, I don't know what y'all's viewpoint is from what perspective you have, but.
So
I'm just listening, on it, but, in thinking of that too, I don't know really the specifics around this situation in terms of, who the counselor was and the type of messaging between the counselor and the student and all that stuff. But I know the dates because every counselor at every school is different. And, this is a private school. I believe this is a student at a private school. Is that right? Gotcha. So, yeah, it is a tough call, but I see all points on this one.
Ms. Coleman and Ms. Blazer, y'all are welcome to discussion. Y'all just can't vote on the item, but if y'all have anything to add to discussion, y'all are welcome to jump in.
This is Mary Ann. I appreciate that it's a tough call, but I also, there are those of you who are literally the boots on the ground that I am not. And what I'm hearing is a little bit, well, somewhere you have to say, I'm sorry, you had opportunities and you didn't do it. And I don't know if you really are opening up a lot more, but we really, to me, this is not a heart-wrenching exception like the ones that we always look at. And I say to myself on those, my goodness, I don't know how that student's even going forward on a daily basis. But this is not the same. And I can't vote, but I do hear what the boots on the ground are saying, Barry and Christy.
Is this person still in school? Like, or did they just quit?
They're in school.
Mr. Brown, what do you feel?
Oh, okay, thank you. I was gonna say, really, I think it's Ms. Bailey and Ms. Lawson. The way I view it is in school, they say it doesn't come up a lot. So it's not like it's setting a bad precedence of how they're gonna proceed. It's not, he earned it, and it's just because he didn't follow FAFSA, but he didn't know he was gonna be going to school here. Now he ends up back here. I'm okay with it. I would look to myself. And we've done others, as they said, and it doesn't come up a lot. It's not like we're feeding into something that's gonna come out of control. And plus, at a private school, if it's not a requirement, I mean, it's a TOPS requirement, but it's not, then like Ms. Coleman said, I don't know who the counselor was. I don't know. They've reached out to everybody. You might come from a family, they don't have all those. I mean, I know our students come up there and use our computers all the time. You would think in this day and age with iPhones that everybody gets messages. That's not true. People don't have a contact. They don't update their information. That's how they get the calls. And it's not, he didn't mystify life. It's not like he just sat out of school for a whole year and he didn't just, that's the only reason I'm leaning. And he could be another one that could be a success story.
I mean, 'cause I had a student recently, he was going to he was gonna go out to do missionary work. And that was one of the things I mentioned to him is let's still do it because anything can happen, just like we had COVID. Just please do it anyway, because if you may get ill while you're there, you have to return and then now you wanna, make a decision to do something after the fact with going to college, I always use the line, the application is good for a year and a half. It's not like it's just for that one, couple of months, it's good for a year and a half. So you still have enough time, even if you do it 6 months, a year, you can still come back and this application is done. And to me now, I'm gonna add that if you plan to do it and come back and you want to utilize TOPS, then I need to definitely to do either the form or the application, the FAFSA now, because of course, this is something that if you want to utilize it after the fact, you still need to do it, so.
Well, based on discussion, I think we've got two no's over here. Correct? We've got
Yes.
two yeses over here. All right, so since we are at a tie and we cannot break a tie because we only have four, I am going to recommend that we defer this item until we have an odd number of individuals present.
I can go
So
for
now
that.
we can take a vote and action. I can go, is everybody okay with?
Yes,
defer?
I agree with that.
We need a motion to defer.
Yes, we do need a
So,
motion to defer.
motion to defer the action item. Another, all right, motion by Ms. Lawson.
And I
by
second.
Ms. Bailey.
Assuming everybody's in agreement, that's passed, right?
All right, moving on, the next meeting date will be Tuesday, December 6th, 2022, and meeting adjourned.
We need a motion to adjourn in a second.
Oh, yes, sorry. A motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Mr. Estes, seconded by
I'll second.
Ms. Lawson.
Okay, the food is ready. It's on the back table. You have.
Great job and thank you all. Thank you, Chairman Brooks.
Thank you. Y'all have a happy Thanksgiving. I have a cold with the